Hi, I'm Crystal,
And I'm Neoshia.
and you're listening to the Rom-Com Detectives. Welcome to Rom-Com Detectives, episode 32, First Cold Case. Today, Neoshia and I will be talking about the 5th episode of Castle Season 1, A Chill Goes Through Her Veins. This episode originally aired on April 6, 2009, was written by Charles Murray, and it was directed by Brian Spicer. We're going to start with our case briefing. The victim in this one was named Melanie Kavanaugh. She was 34, although by the time, if she hadn't been killed, she would have been 39. So, but she was killed like 5 years ago or something, right?
Yeah, she was
Uh,
killed when she was 34.
yeah. So, cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head. Her killer was her husband, although this is like, no, there's no like witnesses or anything, and we don't really know what happened, but we have like a theory basically that he was having an affair and he wanted to get rid of her, and they think that maybe it was an accident because I don't think he had planned everything out in advance, right? Like they were
Well,
just, because they're like, when they were doing their walkthrough, they were talking about how the kids were watching TV and stuff like that. So they
yeah.
think that it was a fight, so like a crime of passion.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I can't remember if I've mentioned this before, but like, it's a theme in this episode that I definitely noticed and would love to talk about as we move through it is sort of this theme of violence against women and how
Mm,
people don't really care or take it seriously. Particularly, you mentioned crime of passion, which historically is one of those crimes that literally exists. It's the difference between you killed someone and you planned it, you premeditated it, you did it, versus like, oh, you killed them because you were so passionate and historically has
angry.
been used. Yeah, it's been used for guys who kill their wives. Like, oh, she made you so angry because she emasculated you and so you had to hit her in the head and you became so enraged and you didn't have another choice. And so it's still murder, but like a
Yeah.
lesser, he kind of sort of didn't mean it as much kind of thing.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
get to that when we talk about his awful best friend. Because that dude just, oh my god, there's so much to say about that guy.
mhm.
Okay, so guest stars, there were quite a few. There's Bill Smitrovich. He played Ben Davidson. He's from shows like The Event, Without a Trace, and The Practice. The guy who played Charles Weiler, his name is actually Charles. His name is Charles Malik Whitfield, so he actually has the same like last initial too. But he's from Chicago Med, and he guest starred on NCIS LA and The Mentalist. And he's actually the first of 3 overlapping guest stars with The Mentalist. Then we have Shannon Rowe. He played Kevin Henson. And I don't know about you, but this guy looks so familiar. I looked at his IMDb and I didn't really recognize anything. Like he had like a lot of guest appearances on like Bones and X Files, Without a Trace, again NCIS LA. But I don't know. He looks like somebody else. I think a more famous actor. I didn't. I don't know. I couldn't put my finger on who he looked like.
Well, what's funny is I'm like, wait a minute, which one was Kevin Henson? Because like
He was
I
the boyfriend in jail.
oh, that's right. Because yeah, I'm just like sitting here thinking like I've definitely seen all of these shows. Yeah, he plays a skeevy dude in Bones too.
Uh huh. And he was in the X Files episode. He was, I don't know who he was, but he was in Kaddish. Or did I say that right?
I
But that's actually
so
one of my least favorite X Files episodes.
yeah, it's kind of weird. It's one of those weird 90s. We're gonna do a cultural
Yeah.
episode, and I'm not really sure how to take it.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that one, along with Bad Law.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then we have Peter Jason. He played Sheriff Sloan. He had a huge IMDb page. It was 267 acting credits. He's been a guest star on a lot of police procedurals. There was Kay Callan. She played Mrs. Marsh. She's Superman's mom on Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman, and she was also on The Mentalist. She was in Blood Money. I don't know if you remember the one
Wait, is that the one where Jane and Lisbon end up in the shipping
in
container?
the shipping container. Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah, okay.
Then there's Phil Abrams. He played Roger, and he was actually he played a doctor on The Pit, though I don't remember which doctor he was. And he was in Redemption on The Mentalist. But I don't remember who he was on that one either. I'm usually really good at spotting like guest stars from similar shows, so
Yeah, I'm
gonna
over
have
here
to.
like uh, who and what and like I'm so lost right now.
Okay, we're gonna get into the episode breakdown. It starts with a woman's frozen corpse dripping. She's melting in some kind of unfinished building. It's kind of a gruesome scene. Anyway, next we go to Beckett. She's woken up early and then we see her getting ready. She's putting on jewelry, and this is kind of like the first half of like a parallel scene from the beginning and the end. But we get to see a photo of, I thought it was her and her dad, but it was actually her parents I saw at the end.
Yeah, because I think we see her parents twice in this episode.
Yeah. So she arrives at the scene and Esposito's there and he greets her with a coffee, and she notices that Castle's already there. He tells her, "Oh, he got here before me." And Castle's like seems more excited than usual. He's like he's got this pun in him that needs to come out. And then he tells Beckett that it's his first cold case because the lady is frozen. Oh boy. But Lainey informs them that the body was frozen solid, and this kind of perplexes them because apparently it wasn't that cold the night before, so she couldn't have been dumped there and then frozen overnight. So that's a
Also,
mystery
too,
that they're gonna have to unravel.
I think it would take longer than just like overnight to freeze someone, wouldn't it?
I
Like, I
think
mean, you can
so.
freeze to death for sure. I'm not saying that, but like to freeze completely solid, like that
Yeah, because
takes a
there's a difference between frozen to death and frozen solid, right? So
right.
Beckett notes that she's melting, and Castle uses this as a opening to crack a Wizard of Oz joke. He's like really into the whole cracking jokes thing at the scene. I guess that it was an active construction site, and maybe they were going to do a concrete pour, so they speculate that maybe they wanted her to just disappear into the concrete. But I don't know what she was lying on. It didn't really look like anything that was going to have concrete poured in it. I think the guy just dumped her unceremoniously and she just happened to land on that. It was like
It,
some kind of like wire or not. No, what do you call that?
it was like some sort of grading, but I think you're right. Like it didn't make sense where she was located because it's not like she was in the ground.
Yeah, I feel like the guy threw her in there, maybe thinking she would fall to the bottom, not realizing there was that thing there, and then she just got stuck there, and he just left.
Also, this is like the worst body dump.
I know it's terrible. Just there's so many terrible people in this episode.
Hmm.
They leave the scene and she asks Lainey to try to find out who she is. And this gets Castle excited. He asks her if they're going to run her through facial recognition databases. And I wondered, like, was that really a thing back then? Like, even like in, like, or was it just like sci fi kind of thing?
I mean, I don't think it was a thing. I think this is like one of those, like we were chatting the other day about like CSI and how like, it really does kind of, we talk a lot about the X Files and its influence. And I
Yeah.
think like CSI has a huge influence on the rom-com detective shows because of like this forensics component, which I know science was a big part of the X Files, but like the forensics itself, because this is something CSI did. It's not really a thing. I don't think. Like, I don't think
Mm,
there is a database. Well, let me not be like too. That's not something that exists because with AI and everything, maybe this exists now, but like at the time, I don't think this is something that really existed. Like, how on TV shows, how they like just randomly drag up people's fingerprints with their driver's license photo.
mm.
That's not a real thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a thing. Facial recognition is definitely a thing on crime show TV today. But yeah, I don't know about 2009. But I mean, I guess it makes sense though what happens next because at the station, Beckett's like she puts like a whole stack of files, I guess, which are missing person cases in
Hmm.
front of him and tells him this is our facial recognition database.
Which is so, 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 so sad, but also, yeah, I mean, that checks out.
Yeah, and then Castle says this is like life before TiVo. That's when Esposito tells Castle because he's like talking about how there's so many missing people, and he tells him about how there's this one woman where she was walking only 3 feet ahead of her boyfriend, and he took a call, and so he lagged behind, and then when he turned the corner, she was gone. And Castle insists that people don't just disappear off the face of the earth, and Ryan disagrees, and he starts citing these things that I didn't understand why he was citing them. He goes, people he says quantum physics, alien abductions, and Schrodinger's cat. So alien abductions I get with missing persons, but what does quantum physics and Schrodinger's cat have to do with missing people?
So, I mean, like, I don't know, like thinking about people falling through dimensional spaces, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm with you. Like, I mean, it's kind of out there, but I think that's kind of Ryan's point. Like, he's disagreeing with Castle, but at the same time, I think he knows this is all BS. Like, I think
Okay.
he's actually agreeing with Castle. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, try to be funny about it.
But he says 1 minute you can be getting a hot dog in the park, and the next you're fighting sleeve stacks on the far side of a dimensional rift. And this is actually a reference to an old sci-fi TV show that I had only ever heard the title of. It's called The Land of the Lost. But I went to go watch a YouTube video of it, and it's basically sleeve stacks are like lizard people with big black eyes.
So, they got that from Doctor Who then? Everything comes from Doctor Who. Next.
So Castle insists that something has to make it all make sense. And this becomes like a recurring thing where like they're talking about the story behind everything. And this is important because this is one where the crime happened 5 years ago. So they don't really have a actual crime scene that they can go to. No active crime scene. They're going to have to speculate a lot and investigate. I mean, Castle joked that it was a cold case, but it actually did turn out to be a cold case in the technical sense, right? It's
Mhm.
one that went cold and they didn't even know that she was dead, basically. So
Yeah, and I think cold means at least three different things in this episode, right? Like, because
yeah, yeah,
solid, it's a, quote unquote cold case, meaning that it's an open missing persons case in this case that has
hmm
never been solved or resolved. And then the
she's
third thing,
frozen.
yeah. And the third thing just being like how I think everyone's reactions are. And I'll stop there because I think there's better places to discuss that. But I do think like cold has like at least three
Yeah,
things in this episode.
yeah, yeah. But so Beckett asks him to come up with an explanation, and he says he starts to craft a tale like that could possibly explain it. And he remarks that, it takes a really long time for a body to defrost, so she couldn't. And Lainey had said this earlier too, that she had only been there a couple of hours. But Lainey calls Beckett and she has an ID. So they go down to the morgue and Lainey tells him that she found her through her fingerprints and she'd had a record for misdemeanor drug possession, but that she'd been missing for over 5 years. And she would have been frozen within 24 hours of her death. So the next morning, Beckett is looking at the victim Melanie's file, and she starts to tell Cass about it, but he already knows because apparently he can speed read. We're gonna have to remember this in case anything comes up to contradict this later. But he says it was like he used to have to spend a lot of time in the library or something. He offers her a Castle Notes version of the file, and he notes that the husband Sam waited a day before calling the cops about her being missing, and so they bring this up repeatedly throughout
Hmm.
the episode. And then they also find out that she was a runaway bride. She ran away 2 weeks before coming back and then getting married. And then after she got married, she ran away 3 more times.
So a couple things. This plot, this story does not make sense to me. After rewatching it a couple times, because like I get the impression, and I think this has a bearing on the ending of the episode. Melanie's parents don't approve of the guy that she actually loves, but they
Yeah.
think the
The guy
Sam
Kevin.
guy, yeah, they think the Sam guy is like the bee's knees or whatever. And I get the impression she didn't want to marry this guy because she like kept running away. And obviously, this is related to addiction in some ways, but like she's running away, coming back, ran away 3 more times, had kids, and allegedly this was the last time she just ran off. That was just, it's so fascinating to me because the whole time the husband just stands out like the sore thumb here. Like, this guy killed her. Like, if
Mhm.
you're watching like the ID network, whatever those true crime things are, you're like, this guy killed his wife. Like, that's how obvious it is. But I mean, like, they're trying to, I don't know, put stuff out there and kind of make it stick. I think increase the suspense. But I mean, I don't even think this is like the biggest part of the episode. I think this is one of those times where the crime might actually be more of the B plot, whereas the A plot is getting to know Beckett,
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
her story. But like, the other thing I was going to add, Castle's notes reminds me of Cliff Notes. Great play on that. You know what I'm talking about, right? Like the
Yeah,
whole,
yeah, the yellow cover, right?
yeah, and it was so popular back then. And but I was just kind of wondering if that even is still a thing because of like AI. You just type a question into Google, and Google's like, "Here's all the things you need to know," as opposed to like going to Cliff Notes, which was great for like telling you everything that happened. The other little thing I had here was I do wonder like how much of this they are still trying to work out Castle's character because the whole speed reading thing is like to me that's like Spencer Reed from Criminal Minds.
Mm.
Like that's kind of his thing, right? He's like boy genius and can like there's an episode where he's like sitting there reading a file and he's just like moving his finger and like the guy watching him is like, "Are you actually reading that?" And he's like, "Yeah, I have a photographic memory or an eidetic memory," and like goes into like how he can read so fast and everything. And I just kind of wonder like how much of this we're still building out who Castle really is because
Mhm.
I don't know that it's necessarily speed reading that makes Castle who he is, and I don't know. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, and because he specifically mentions that he read the whole file while she went to the bathroom,
Right.
which wouldn't have been like a minute, it would have been a few minutes, but even then, it's really fast.
But then
And
also, I guess I'll say this because he puts it as speed reading, but as we move through the episode, it just maybe there wasn't that much in the file.
yeah, yeah,
Like that could be it too. Like maybe he's playing it off as speed reading, and the file might be just 2 pages.
could be. Because, I mean, they do make a point of saying that the guy Sloan didn't do very much in his investigation, so probably, yeah, it wasn't that big.
Yeah.
All right, so next they go to Sam Cavanaugh's apartment. But instead of finding him, there's a guy named Roger. And he tells them, well, the guy who lived here before was murdered. And then he slams the door in their face. And we got to remember that for later. Uh,
Yes, absolutely.
at the station, Espel brings him a file on Sam Cavanaugh. And he says that the guy was shot a year ago in a mugging at a grocery. Was it? Well, after he was grocery shopping, it wasn't at the grocery store. I think he went grocery shopping and
Yeah,
he
he
got
was
mugged
on the
in and out, or
way.
yeah, or something like that. But Castle suggests here that maybe the murders are related. Maybe he found out about his wife's death and was about to go to the cops. But yeah, this is where Castle says that he could craft a story in 250 pages and convince Ryan of it. And he says he'd call it "A Chill Runs Through Her Veins." And so the episode is called "A Chill Goes Through Her Veins," but Castle specifically says "A Chill Runs Through Her Veins." And I think last episode I might have said "runs" because that just sounds more like the natural title. So I don't know if
Mhm.
like the actual episode title is like an error because through just yeah
Oh, yeah.
goes versus runs.
I mean, runs through her veins to me makes more sense.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and I think maybe it is just when they were naming it, like someone said goes.
yeah. Funny little thing. So apparently the Kavanaughs had two kids, and they're living with the victim's parents. So they go to the house where they find an older man playing outside with his two young granddaughters, and then they go inside to talk about Melanie. They're basically telling this is like a notification, basically, because
Mhm.
up until this point they just thought she was missing, but they say that they kind of already figured that she was dead. And with some of Castle's questioning, the father gets upset And then this is where he starts ranting about the guy Sloan, the detective who was assigned to her case. And he basically just says that, they turned her into they were kind of victim blaming,
Mm-hmm.
and they were pointing to her running away and her prior drug use, and they basically just wrote it off as, oh yeah, she just ran away again. So,
Mm-hmm.
but the guy is now a sheriff, so they go to talk to him, and he basically has like an attitude that Beckett really reacts like she doesn't like it, and they like have a kind of contentious conversation. He insists that, oh, I was just investigating a missing person. I didn't have a body, so there wasn't any like. He had no urgency. He had no like motivation to like delve deeper into what could have happened to her, because he just assumed, oh yeah, she ran off with her boyfriend again. So, oh
Yeah.
well.
I mean that, and like you get the impression, and this is what I meant by like there's at least three sort of meanings of cold here in this episode, because
Yeah.
like you get the sense that like eh, they don't really.
It's like a very who cares kind of attitude from a lot of
Yeah.
people, right?
Yeah, and to that point, like I get Beckett's frustration with this guy because it was terrible detective work. Like he
Mm-hmm.
just literally listened to whatever the best friend said. Like the best friend tells him, "Oh yeah, she ran off. She's in
With
Philadelphia."
her ex-boyfriend.
And like that was it. That it was that easy. Like what? Like you didn't even verify? Like the ex-boyfriend's in prison. You couldn't find out where he was and like ask? It was just so cold, right? It's so like devoid of
Yeah.
any like human emotion or the fact that we should care about this woman.
And I liked Castle's snark here with Sloan. He was like, "Oh well, Philadelphia is very far away." He
Yeah,
was just,
because not to mention this dude is working in South Jersey at the time. And like New York to Philadelphia is not even that far. And so I mean that's also part of it. Is like it's like you couldn't even be bothered to like even make a phone call
yeah, call, right?
or yeah, like take the hour and a half trip, like nothing. And he just accepted this super flimsy story at face value.
Yeah. I mean, he tries to defend himself again, and Beckett just snaps at him, and she says that, she was actually already dead when he was investigating her as a missing person, and he just didn't know it, and he didn't care enough, I guess, to look into it to get to that point.
I mean, I got the impression that if he had a body, he wouldn't have cared either way.
Yeah, yeah. There would have been some other nice little cushy story to stick into. Yeah,
Yeah,
like Beckett says.
it's like at the end when one of the killers in the episode actually does, mention that like even if there had been a trial, they would have just put her on the stand, right?
Yeah,
She's a
yeah.
junkie. She ran
She
away.
ran
She's
away.
obsessed with this ex-boyfriend. And like all these things, like there would have never been any sort of justice for this woman.
Yeah. So they're in the car, and Castle and Beckett are talking about the guy Sloan. Beckett says that she hates cops like that. And this is all foreshadowing for what comes at the end. But she's basically saying that cops like him just want to make the case fit what's in a nice little box. And in the end, because of their actions, murderers go free. And this is the point where Castle asks, oh, is that what happened to your dad? Because he's noticed that she has this particular watch that she wears, and he asked her if that was his, and she kind of dodges it. She doesn't answer, and then she gets a phone call, so she doesn't have to answer. But they meet Ryan and Esposito at a truck, because they had said earlier they were going to go talk to homeless, and Castle was debating whether to go talk to homeless or go go with Beckett. But basically, they found a homeless guy who saw someone taking a bag into the dump site and then didn't come out without it, or
Mhm.
didn't come out with it. So the guy also remembered the word storage on the truck. So that's how they found the truck and the company. I guess it was the truck that moved the body to the dump site. So they
Mhm.
go talk to the owner, Albert Bolin, who is among the cold people. Oh my God, so many things to say about this guy. So Beckett says, someone saw a person driving one of your trucks and dumping the body. And he just goes, oh, you're lying. No one saw. And it's like, wow. And like Castle's response to this is pretty surprised too. He's like, wow, at least deny it, right? Instead of just saying, ah ha ha. But yeah, he says he admits that he did dump her. He basically ran a storage facility, and the rent on that place was overdue. So he was gonna. I guess the policy is when they're overdue, they go and they cut the lock and they go sell whatever's inside. I mean, we've seen that on like other TV shows, right, where they go auction off. People go to an auction for like a storage unit or something like that. But basically, that's what he was gonna do, and that's where he found the freezer, and the lady was inside. And instead of calling the police, he takes her body and he dumps it at the construction site. And it's like, I mean, they ask him why he didn't call the cops. He says, I don't want to end up on the news. What if this was a mob hit? But oh my god, his excuses were all so terrible. And it's like I was just kind of wondering why they didn't arrest him,
Hmm.
because isn't that a crime, disposing of human remains like that? It must be illegal somehow, right?
I mean, it seems like it would be. He's like tampering with the crime scene, and
Or like
um,
desecration of a corpse or something. I
I
mean, there
mean
must be
something.
some kind of thing. I just felt like I just feel like they should have arrested him for something at this point, because he basically admits that he moved the body and dumped her.
Well, not only that, but like there is no reason for this, and like he
Yeah.
kept the damn freezer. Like I'm like looking at this, and it's
She
like
still got her
there's
hair stuck to
hair.
it too. What are you gonna
Yeah,
do with it? You're gonna defrost it and rinse it out and sell it? Ew.
I know. It's just like it's gross, and it was so revolting. I'm just like, this doesn't make any sense. Why didn't you, if you have a whole storage truck, like, why didn't you just dump the entire freezer? Like, it makes no
Yeah.
sense to keep the freezer. I think you're right. Now that you mention it, he's probably going to defrost it and sell it.
Eh,
It's disgusting.
yeah. Because I mean, this is only like the next day, so he hadn't had time to do it, but he probably could have, right? So
Yeah. I mean, it was still plugged in and everything, so it wasn't
yeah,
defrosted, but like, still, it was gross. I was just like, this is the dumbest. Again, coming back to the theme of coldness, right? Like, there was just no care
yeah,
for this woman's body. Like,
yeah.
he was like, "Oh, I almost had a heart attack when I found her, and I couldn't be associated with this." And like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, his story was just I didn't I it didn't make sense. And I feel like this could have been it could have easily been where the episode started. You know, like he goes to open the locks, he opens the freezer and oh my god, there's a frozen lady, and then he calls the cops and that's where the episode starts. But instead we have this absolute like terrible human being of a guy. He takes her and dumps her somewhere. Oh my god. So
Hmm.
bad. Okay, so the next scene we have Castle staring into his freezer. And here we have Alexis, his muse, coming up behind him. And she's like, what are you doing? We have AC. But they talk through it, and Alexis says that maybe, what does she say? She says maybe someone prevented the person from making the payments. That's what I
Yeah.
wrote down, but is that what she said?
Um, I think so. Like, I can't remember exactly what she said, but like how you pick up on like how sometimes they give Castle the softball. I feel like they do the same thing with Alexis and Castle a lot of the time.
Yeah. This one I think they did too, because what she said, I feel like that's like an easy deduction.
Yeah. But I mean, I thought this was peak Castle and Alexis moment when she's like, I'm gonna basically need therapy for to get over this because like, is this a Detective Beckett question or is this a Nikki Heat question? Since it's a Detective Beckett question, we know there is a body in a freezer. Like,
And she actually dropped some details about the Nikki Heat plotline or something. Something about an incinerator, right?
oh yeah, that he'd been asking about an incinerator before.
Yeah, yeah. So that's why she was asking if this is a real thing or a fiction thing. Thought that was cute. Okay, so next they go and talk to the best friend, Charles, who's the guy who told Sloane that she went to go to her ex-boyfriend in Philadelphia. And he admits that what he told the detective was what Sam, his best friend, the husband, told him. And because that was the guy she'd gone to the last couple of times, which I think was immediately pretty suspicious.
Hmm.
And even Castle at the when they were talking to the detective was like, "Don't you think he's this guy's a little biased?"
I mean, it makes no sense to be like, oh, this guy said she's in Philadelphia. She must be there.
Yeah, like how would he know?
Exactly.
But he like gets into like her troubled past and says she was a good person, but she'd get high and then accuse Sam of ruining her life. And then he gives them the name of her boyfriend, the one who she was supposedly with, Kevin Henson. So they go down there, and apparently he is doing time. So they visit him in a prison, and I think it's in Philadelphia. Do they go to Philadelphia?
I think it's I can't remember if he's in South Jersey or Philadelphia, but
Oh, yeah.
it's
Okay. Yeah, it's South Jersey. Yeah. Okay. How far is that?
I mean, South Jersey and Philadelphia, like that's sort of the
I don't know
South
if like New
Jersey.
York to South Jersey, like how far would that be?
Like an hour and a
Oh.
half-ish because, like, that South Jersey region is connected to Philadelphia. Like, I don't know if that
Mm.
makes sense, but that's sort of like the Philly metro area, whereas North Jersey is like the New York metro area.
So they go to visit this guy Kevin, and he basically gives him kind of like a Romeo and Juliet kind of story, where they really were in love, but she couldn't be with him because she was supposed to be with this guy Sam. Her parents didn't approve and things like that, and she ended up having kids with the guy Sam. And
I don't know, I kinda wonder, like, how much that weighs on the parents because, like, honestly, this kind of comes down to I think if this lady was allowed to just live her life and be happy, like how she was, realistically, she probably wouldn't have as much addiction issue, and then also well, she'd probably still be alive.
yeah. And I think it's important to note that the guy Sam was a banker, so he probably fit like the ideal husband kind of mold for the parents. So that's probably why too she ends up
Yeah,
with
like
him.
banking, banker's hours, money, and he's not suffering with addiction issues. But like, I mean, I just kind of want like this is like kind of crazy. Like, I feel like I need more. This could have been a whole movie because like I need to know why this Sam guy marries a woman who runs away from the altar basically, and
hmm
then runs away multiple times while they're married, and has kids with her, and then finally reaches his wits end like and snaps over her finding out he's having an affair. I'm sorry, I just skipped ahead, but like I need more.
We need the chill runs through her goes through her veins spin-off.
Yeah, like I just need to know, man.
But so this guy Kevin, he tells him that Melanie had wanted to run away with the kids and him, and instead he put her on a bus and sent her back. And then he checked into rehab because he didn't think that he was, I guess, in a state to do what she wanted, and he felt that it was more responsible to send her back. But then he says that he knew she was dead because she didn't call him,
Hmm.
that she would have if she was alive. So I mean, you know that and he says that the husband was having an affair. So they go back to the best friend, and he gives them a name of the lady he was with, Elizabeth Forte. So they bring her in, and they go through this whole thing where she doesn't want to admit that she was having an affair, but finally she admits it. And then she says that she ended it because she was scared of Sam, because I guess he started talking about offing his wife. I mean, not in those words, but basically asking her, "Hey, so how would you feel if my wife was no longer an issue?"
Yeah, which is crazy because like all he has to do is divorce her. He gets to keep the kids because she, has these addiction issues.
So she says that when she found out that his wife went missing, she broke it off and he got angry. And so she had to transfer to another branch. And Beckett gets really upset here. She actually stands up and has to go turn away because she's so upset. And basically, she's just like, and this is like you said, it's cold, right? She asks her, "Why did you wait 5 years to say anything?" And she says, "Well, why does it matter? They're both dead now." But it's like the guy only died a year ago, right?
Right. And I
So
mean, like,
there are still 4 years before that where she was just like not saying anything, right?
right. And I count. So with the guy that dumped the body, this lady, and then we're going to get to a third person, right? At least
Mm-hmm.
three people in this episode. Oh, sorry, actually four because the person who investigated it too. We're going
Yeah,
to have four people in the end by the end of this episode
who
that are
just did
like,
not give a
they
crap
didn't
at
care.
all.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nothing beyond their own like worries. And I mean, like, Honestly, that's probably the state of the human condition in 2025. Like people only see and care about like their immediate issues. But like I also found this episode is so eerie and how it portrays violence against women because I mean, I've been talking about cold and we've mentioned how cold some of the people are, but like it really highlights how few people actually cared that this woman even went missing. Like her parents cared.
Yeah, I mean, if you put yourself in any of these cold people's positions, I feel like I would have done something. Like if I'm like the lady Elizabeth, I would have made an anonymous call to like the police or something to say, oh, you should look into the husband. He was saying this and this, or something like that,
Yeah,
or and the storage guy obviously could have just called the police. Why would he end up on the news?
right. And I mean, like, even like the lady who was having the affair with the husband, I mean, like, if you think about it, because I like how Castle kind of broke her down because, like, he's like, you didn't just end the affair because you realized you still loved your husband. Like, what actually made you end it? And she goes into like how scary this guy is. And it's like, she's in no danger by like telling the police the truth.
Yeah.
And
And
like,
the thing that seemed to set Beckett off was she was just like talking about transferring. I had to transfer to another branch. Like it was so inconvenient for her. Meanwhile, this lady, she thinks that he maybe killed his wife. So
well, yeah, I mean, like that's it too for me. Like, so few people cared about Melanie. Like, she's literally thrown out like trash. Like her body is anyway, right? Like she's frozen, um, and kept in the storage unit. Like junk that people don't want. Then when she's discovered, she's thrown out like trash. And then, the only people who care that she's even gone missing and, they just know that she's dead because she's not come back around as her parents and the guy who, is a quote unquote junkie, an addict, whatever.
and the kids.
Right. And the kids, like, so the people who you might expect and the person who they thought was trash. Meanwhile, this actual trash man gets all these benefits of the doubt. And I mean, if he's scaring this woman to the point she has to transfer, like God only knows like what he was doing to his wife. Like so
Yeah.
that's another piece of it, right? Like we don't have that piece of like it's clear she's unhappy, she wants to leave. She knows he's having an affair, so this might be her out, but like if he is throwing up these types of red flags to the woman that he's like romancing at the time, like good lord, what is he doing to this woman at home?
And the other thing too is that the girls looked kind of young. So I feel like 5 years ago, they would have been really small. They would have been like,
Toddlers.
yeah, 3 to 5 or something like that, or even younger than that. So
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think not to like skip too far ahead, but once they go through like, what happened, I think it's pretty clear that they had to be really little for that to
yeah,
work.
yeah. Okay, so they show Beckett. She's staying late. She's obsessing over the murder board, and she's basically stuck. And then we go to Castle in his apartment. He's playing laser tag with Alexis, and they're yelling pretty cute, dorky roleplay lines at each other. Martha comes in with a mud mask, and she's like, "Where's my purse?" And it's such a funny, chaotic home life for them, but it's so cute and endearing. I really like this.
Yeah, I mean, I really thought it was funny when they're playing laser tag and like Alexis uses Martha to get the upper hand on Castle.
Yeah, she's hiding behind her. Yeah, she's using her as cover. But Martha's like, "How old are you?" But the doorbell rings and it's Beckett. And to note that this is the first time she's seeing Castle's apartment because she walks in and she's looking around like, "Wow, this place is huge." And I guess that's like basically in New York standards, right? It's a very spacious apartment. He has a huge living room and
Yeah, I mean, I guess like he's rich, right? Like he's
yeah.
wealthy, so he's probably bought like a huge space.
Because I think in the first episode they show them walking through the apartment too. And they have like big hallways, and he's got a huge office, and yeah. So anyway, after some awkwardness, they invite her in, and Castle and Beckett move to his office, and they talk Batman parallels. But
Yeah.
she noticed his story outline board, and she says, "Oh, it looks a lot like a murder board." And he's like, "Yeah, except mine is fake."
Yeah. Which I mean, it's kind of cool too because it's like digital and
Yeah, it's like a touch screen,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And so I just have to ask, like, do we think Castle is Batman? Because I mean, she's right. He's the rich bachelor who's kind of doing some vigilante stuff. I mean, he's not technically a vigilante because he's working with the cops, but he's
Uh
like a
huh.
consultant. Like, is he Batman or I don't know? Maybe he's more like dun 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 Green Lantern.
So Castle asks her what's wrong because I mean, I think yeah, her showing up at his apartment is kind of irregular at this point. And she's like, I can't find it. She can't figure out what happened to Melanie. And he says, well, it was Sam. So I mean, what's wrong with that? I mean, you know what happened. And she says that she doesn't have any proof. She only has a theory, and she needs to know what happened. She wants to get the family proof of what happened. And so he tells her that she has the ending, so now she just has to work backwards and finish the story. So they start talking through it, and they talk about how the fact that they had two young kids, so she had to have had the kids with her when she disappeared, and so that's when they figure out that she died in the apartment, and then she somehow made it to that storage facility. But that's what they can't figure out. They can't figure out how she got stuck. She got put in the storage facility. So he tells her to go to the scene. He gives her some story about how. Where did he say he went? He
So
was
he said he went to he
Empire State
killed.
Building, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He pushed someone off the Empire State Building, and
Yeah,
a
one of his
character.
books.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he had to go walk it to see.
So this was another one where I thought, Castle is gets to bring basic detective work to Beckett like it's a novel idea, but it's not. I just feel like this is something that Beckett, the detective, would have already done on her own. I don't think she would have gotten stuck and had to go to Castle for the idea, but gotta
Yeah,
let
and
it
not only
slide.
I mean, not only that, but didn't you think this was a little obvious? Like for me, this one was kind of obvious that like how did they get her body out to the storage unit? Well, common sense says they had to get a truck of some kind to take her to the storage unit. I mean, granted, I wouldn't have like guessed they put her in the freezer and got her there. Like, you know how convoluted that got, but like I, that was kind of like obvious to me. Like they had to get her there. Like so it was a car. But like to your point, I do think you're right that like this is super obvious, but for me this is the one time that narratively this works out because you can tell Beckett is she's kind of off kilter a little bit, not entirely, the calm and cool and in control detective we've seen over the last 4 episodes or that we've come to know over these last 4 episodes. There's something that's like you can tell she's kind of like on pins and needles about something. And I feel like, by the end of the episode, we know what it is, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so to some degree, for me, it almost feels like he's talking to her in this way, and it's like to calm her down, to bring her back down to earth. Like,
Mm.
so for me, like, I think that this is the narrative that's kind of showing us that something is wrong, something is up.
She's flustered and she's yeah.
Yeah, like she can't even think straight right now. But I mean, to your point, I do think the whole how did they get her out of the apartment thing is kind of obvious. But okay.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to walk through the crime when they're walking through the crime too. So because there's some areas that I don't think they cover, like towards the end of the whole walkthrough they go to. So they go back to Roger's apartment, and I really like this part because Castle starts the role play and says, "We're married," and immediately she's like, "No, we're not. I don't want to be married."
Yeah, and the way she delivers it is so good too. It's almost like doth protest too much.
But they start bickering, and she's like, "I want a divorce." And the guy Roger's like, "Are you guys like this all the time?" And they answer yes at the same time, which is so funny. I like the timing of that scene.
Mhm.
But then they walk through what they think of on the day of her murder, the family's afternoon. So basically, they think that she had the kids with her in the apartment. She made them dinner. They move into the kitchen, and then they speculate that that's when Sam came home. And then they had a fight about the affair, and they turn on each other. Castle has a pan, Beckett has a little pot, and they theorize that that's how he killed her. I mean, they don't know, but That's what they speculate. They think the kids are probably in the bedroom. They say watching TV, but I think at this point they don't really, maybe, I think maybe the kids might have been too young. I don't know.
I think
So,
they're just spitballing really, right? Like,
yeah,
because they know
yeah,
the kids weren't likely in the room with them when it
yeah,
happened.
yeah. So they move, they like start moving through like what happens if she's dead in the kitchen. And so they move out and they're like, "Oh, he must have put her in the bathroom so that he can hide them from the her from the kids." And then they shut the bathroom door on Roger's face, which is why I said earlier we have to remember that he slams the door in their face. They
Yeah.
slam the door in his face. I love that. But then they start speculating about how he got the body out of the building. And I like that Roger is still there outside listening because he just opens the door and he's like, maybe he called a cab.
Yeah.
So he was totally still snooping, which is fair because if there were cops in my house and they were speculating about a crime that happened, I would be there too, like listening to every word they say.
I mean, like, at any point in time, he could just be like, "Get out of my house," right? Like, ask they have no legal authority to be there.
But like it would be like something to talk about, right? And like, oh, there were these detectives in my house and they were like walking through a crime scene. Oh my god.
Yeah. And I found his participation in this whole, like, walkthrough to be pretty hilarious because, like, I mean,
It
you're right,
was.
he it's the door slamming and then his little
He's
input.
pitching an idea.
Yeah, I mean, he's so into it, and because at first when they arrive, he's just like, "What kind of people were these?" Like, the wife was murdered, the husband was murdered. I mean, it's a fair question. Like, if I bought the apartment from these people and now, like,
Nobody told me all of this
right,
history.
right, like, is someone coming to kill me? Like, what's going on?
But yeah, like so this they keep talking through it and they talk about the doorman and like how did they get her into the freezer and out of the thing. And Roger, very helpful, he's like, well, yeah, if you get a delivery that big you have to sign the big ledger downstairs. And so they go check the ledger and they find an entry on that date for Mrs. Marsh, which, oh my god, it must be a really big book if it can go back 5 years. But they go to talk to her, and she confirms that she never ordered a freezer. But the guy brought it up anyway, and then she was downstairs still talking to the people, or she was still. Who was she? So I don't know, she was downstairs trying to work things out, and then when she came back up to her apartment, there was no freezer, there was no guy. And she asks, "Oh, does this have to do with the missing woman?" And then she tells him that she had told all of this stuff to another detective, but she doesn't confirm that it was the guy Sloan. So,
Yeah, and I mean, like, it just seems like it would be Sloan because he's the only one on the case, right?
yeah, yeah. So next they go to the delivery company, and I think this is the delivery company for the freezer.
Mhm.
They must have signed the book, right? As the company.
Mhm.
But Castle notices that the trucks are the same ones in the parking lot are the same ones that they saw outside of the best friend's store. And so they were like, "Oh, who would you call if you needed help with heavy lifting?" And Beckett's like, "You'd call your best friend." So they bring him in for questioning, and here we have the next cold guy in this string of cold people. And he says, "Yeah, the guy Sam called him that night and said he needed help. He went over there, and Melanie was dead in the tub in a garment bag, and the kids were sleeping." And so Cass asked him, "Why did you help him?" And he gives this BS excuse about how he was thinking about the kids and how their mom had just died, and if their dad goes to prison, what happens to them. It's like, okay, they went to live with their grandparents, they're fine now. So
Well, and also
it's BS.
it is BS, but, like, I mean, this plan is so
I
ridiculous.
know, like, what, like, why put her in a freezer and then plug that freezer in and then pay for upkeep on it? Oh my god.
Yeah, at any point in time, they could have, like, gotten rid of her. Like, it's so convoluted, and, like, I have no sympathy for this man because even when he's confronted with, like, "Why did you stop paying? Like, you'd been paying all this time." And he's like, "Well, Sam gave me the money for the payments, and, like, why should I have to pay for the rest of my life?" And, like, sir, there's a dead woman here that you
Yeah.
helped hide her body, and
For
you guys,
years.
for years, treated her like some discarded junk, and, you're like, oh, I understand how messed up the situation was, sir. And you
And
like participated in this lie.
it's like he's like saying that he was thinking about the kids, but what? It's okay for the kids to just think that their mom abandoned them
Yeah,
and never came
exactly.
back. Like, dude.
Yeah, exactly. No one cared about this woman or her impact on the kids. It was all about the actual trash man husband who, we got to protect him. And like, even like the woman he was having an affair with, right? Like, and I mean, I guess I kind of do understand, like, she doesn't want her husband to find out she was having an affair, but like at the same time, like, it's all about, oh, I just had to transfer because he became so insistent. And like, everyone's like pulling out all the stops to protect this man.
Mm. I mean, I think the guy Charles, he literally just says, like, well, he made a very bad mistake. And I think this very bad mistake he's talking about is killing his wife.
Hmm.
But is that really how you're going to break it down, man? I mean, he made a bad mistake.
Right, like, a bad mistake like, I wouldn't even consider, like, if this were, like, for example, and this is a I recognize how bad this is, but, like, if you had come to me with, like, "Oh, this guy hit his wife," and said, "Oh, he just made a very bad mistake," I don't even think I'm buying that.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, there's something there, and you need to get that worked on and fixed, and, like, learning from this lady that he was having an affair with that he had been plotting this. Like, and I mean, granted, Castle and Beckett, because I mean, it doesn't matter at this point, right? He's dead. It doesn't matter if he had the intent or it's premeditated. They know he did it. They don't have to prove anything. Like, that doesn't matter. But like, they're still being nice enough to even say, oh, this must have been a crime of passion. It happened in the heat of the moment. When after speaking to the mistress, it's quite clear that he had been planning this.
Hmm. Yeah,
Trash.
because like I mean, either that or he's just really quick on his feet to come up with this whole freezer plan. Also, I feel like on one planet can you order a freezer and get it delivered within 24 hours?
Right. Right. And then like also he waited 24 hours to report her missing and the whole like I don't know. This is all like so jacked up and yeah, I understand why he ended up dead. But anyway,
But yeah, the only good thing I have to say about this guy Charles is he's really ride or die. He's pretty loyal to his best friend. That's about his only redeeming quality. If you ever needed somebody to help you hide the body, then I guess he's your guy because he's willing to make cash payments on your behalf.
I
But
mean,
only for a limited time.
only in so long as you're giving him the payments to make. Cuz then after that, tough cookies. But I I mean, I think this is classic like boys will be boys, bro code
Mm.
type stuff, right? Because like I mean, that's how his language is, right? Oh, he just made a mistake. Or what was I supposed to do? Like, it's all about, coalescing around this person who is just a horrible person.
But at least we know that he's going to get some kind of punishment because Beckett does say that the DA is going to make sure that he pays for it for the rest of his life, implying that he's going to go to jail for something. Which
Well,
I still would like the storage facility guy to pay some kind of thing to he needs some kind of comeuppance for what he did.
well, yeah, for sure. But like, also, like this guy is like, he's kind of dumb to go in and just like spill his guts because like he's the last one standing. Like, bro, you're gonna do some time.
The only smart guy who ends up in the interrogation room is the dad.
Uh huh.
Okay, so next we go to the bullpen. Montgomery is talking to them about the case. They're basically just disgusted, like how we are about the circumstances. And but Montgomery says, "Well, at least karma came to bite Sam in the ass in the end." And meanwhile, Castle's reviewing the file. He looks like he's flipping through pretty fast, so I guess he's speed reading again. But he brings up Becca says she's going to go talk to the parents to bring them up to speed. But Castle says, "Hey, you know the cop that Mrs. Marsh spoke to, and he points out that that the guy Sloan didn't list Mrs. Marsh in his report." And Beckett's like, well, maybe he just didn't care enough to put it down. And so he asks, well, why would that guy who didn't care, why would he even have bothered talking to her about a freezer? So in this case, like his poor attitude over it kind of helps them in this part, because it just, yeah, it seems kind of fishy. Like, why would he go talk to her? So they go back to talk to her, and I do want to note that I like this lady. She had such a small role, but I liked her delivery and her sass and everything. But they basically find out that she didn't talk to a cop 5 years ago. She talked to a cop last year. And so after she describes him to them, they figure out that, oh, she actually told it to Ben Davidson, who's Melanie's father. So that's when Castle and Beckett, they go back to the Davidsons, Melanie's parents' house, and they're watching the two girls inside with the grandparents, and they look really happy. And Castle tells her that, you could just leave things how they are. Montgomery is happy with the resolution. And this is where Beckett tells him that's the difference between the real world and a novel. Cops don't get to decide how the story ends. And I really like that line of hers. And it's a good moral quandary that I think they present. Because I think they did this in The Mentalist too, right? With the one with the girl, the young girl and
Um,
Lisbon.
yeah, where Lisbon kind of has to make the choice of like charger, don't charger.
Yeah.
I mean, I think, see, I'm kind of conflicted here because
Yeah.
on one hand, they're only here because Castle asked a question, right?
Yeah.
Like, he's the one who had the power to kind of just let this go.
Yeah.
But then he tries making it Beckett's choice. Like, you could just walk away. You don't have to actually go in there. And it's like, well, I can if I know that he murdered this man, right?
Yeah. But I feel like for him, maybe he was just trying to like he just wanted to like chase down the last of these. I don't think he necessarily realized where it could have led to when he said that. I think he was just picking at a little niggling thing, how an author might do with a plot. So I don't know that he ever really envisioned that they would end up at the grandparents and she would have to like arrest him for murder. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's partially true. I mean, I like this like cops don't get to decide how the story ends.
Mm-hmm.
I think the show kind of blows a hole through this, in a matter of episodes really because like you mentioned The Mentalist and I one of the things I really like about The Mentalist has always been the corruption storyline that it carries throughout. And I mean, realistically, you talk about a show that's like cops are not good or they're not always good, right? The Mentalist is there, but I think Castle is right there with them in terms of
Yeah.
like, cops aren't always the good guys, not even the ones we love.
Yeah. Okay, so she knocks on the door and she tells him, "Well, I'm sorry, but I gotta take you in for questioning." And so they take him to interrogation, and he basically kind of theoretically lays out what happened. He says that he came to the same conclusion they did, that she died in the apartment, and then he had to go investigate how he could have gotten her out of the apartment because she's missing. They never find her until 5 years later. And so he says, well, why didn't you go to the police? And we talked a little bit about this earlier, where he says that, well, if he had been convicted, he would have paid for his crime, but he didn't. He reminds them that there was no body at the time. So they would have had to put him on trial without a body, with no proof that she was actually dead. And like with her history of running away, it could have easily just been dismissed for lack of evidence, right?
And I don't even think it matters, honestly, if they had a body or if they didn't have a body. Like she would have been on trial the whole time. Like it would
Mm-hmm.
have just shifted the goalposts, really, right? Like, oh, she started using again and was threatening to run away, and he, in a fit of passion, hit her over the head.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It would have always been her on trial.
Then he like lays out the theoretical scenario about Sam. He basically went to confront him one night in some place where they were all alone. He tells him, he kind of, I guess, tells him, I won't do anything if you just tell me the truth. And he does tell him, and then he becomes really upset and shoots him with a gun he brought back from the war. And then he says, when Beckett asks him something, he says, I never said I killed him. And he's like, the cops said that he was shot in a robbery and that there was little chance to find out who killed him. And then he basically calls their bluff. He's like, well, let's see if there's any way to find out who killed him. So he's going to fight it. And then that's when he asks for his lawyer. And I really felt for this guy. I This was the only guy that was pretty sympathetic throughout the entire episode because I mean, he went and he avenged his daughter, and he's not gonna he doesn't intend to go quietly down for it, right? So even with everything that he said, he's gonna fight it, and yeah,
I mean, why should he?
I
Like,
know, right?
I think he hit the nail on the head with the system and how the system would have done everything
Mm-hmm.
to let this guy off the hook. How, even the people around him were closing ranks. I bet they would have never found the lady he had an affair with.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because they would have never gone to talk to her boyfriend. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they just, or if they did go talk to the boyfriend, they would have tried to say, well, he could have killed her because she didn't want to go with, you know what I mean? Like, it's just
Yeah, yeah.
all of this, and yet she would still be the only one dead. He may or may not be dead. Or sorry, she'd be the only one dead. He may or may not be in prison. And so why is it that, in getting justice for his daughter, or what he sees as justice, right? Why should he go down for that? But this also reminds me of this kind of like wild episode of Third Watch, which I'm gonna like kind of keep the details limited because, like, first off, I don't even think you can stream this show. So and I doubt many listeners have like seen it. It's a pretty, it actually predates this show because I think it was definitely off air by the time the show started. But there's an episode of Third Watch where this child, this 16-year-old, is assaulted, and the assault is happening in front of a police officer, but the police officer doesn't recognize it as such. And it starts off this whole chain of events where the child's mother ends up killing the person who assaulted the child. And so this cop basically coaches her and tells her exactly what to do, which is, you're going to confess to me that you killed him. And as soon as I, come back and say, I need you to write it down, you're going to tell me you want a lawyer. And that's all you're going to say is, I want to see my lawyer. And she does. And it's basically the same thing this guy is doing here, because the whole idea is that, like, technically she confessed, but it's not a confession they can use. Um,
Mm.
and so now she's going to ask for a lawyer. So they solve the case, basically, right? Like, the cops have the case solved, but then the lawyers aren't going to be able to actually do anything with it. And so, like, that's the point. And I mean, like, is that something that happens in real life? I don't know. Like, I don't think so.
Mm.
But like,
But
it's
for storytelling purposes,
yeah.
it's a nice little
Yeah, because it kind of
plot
indicates,
twist.
yeah, it kind of indicates, right, that, like, I mean, this was the person who did it, and he had kind of come up with the way to do this and to do it well. But, like, I mean, it kind of indicates, right, like, this idea. I mean, even having it in the story this way, the idea that, like, it's not right to kill people and to, like, take justice into your hands that way, but also sometimes you kind of have to. And I mean, it's like the Batman reference
Mhm.
earlier in the
Mhm.
episode, right? Like, it's what Batman does. He's a vigilante.
Justice isn't always just, I think is what they're trying to say. So
Mhm. And sometimes you got to make the justice, I guess. Don't kill people, folks. That is not what we are saying.
accidentally or otherwise.
Exactly.
Okay, so at the end we have Beckett staring at a photo of the girls, and Alexis or Castle's talking to Alexis, and they're talking. He's like promising her pancakes in the morning, and he hangs up, and he's kind of looking at Beckett like a little embarrassed, and he says, "Oh, Alexis missed me," but it's clear that he just missed her, and he called her. But then Beckett finally tells him the story that he's been chasing about her since actually episode 1, right? When they were reading the letters, they were reading his fan mail, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he was like reading like why someone like her became a cop, and he had speculated that someone close to her was had died, and the killer was never caught. And so she just tells him it was my mother, not my father. And she tells him the story about how her mother was supposed to meet her and her dad for dinner, but she never showed up. And then 2 hours later, they went home, and there was a detective waiting for them. That she'd been stabbed, but she still had all her purse and her money and her jewelry, and there was no sexual assault. So there's like they just killed her, and that her death was attributed to gang violence. And she said that just like with Melanie, the people investigating couldn't really think otherwise, and they just wanted it closed and put away, and for that reason her mother's killer was never caught. And so she says that the watch, so I'm not sure what the watch means, but she says the watch signifies her dad. So is it a thing with his sobriety?
Yeah, so, like, she wear that is her dad's watch that she wears, and
Uh-huh.
so she says I mean, I was hoping this was gonna be on the quiz
She
question.
says the watch
So
is
she
for
says,
the she says the watch signifies the life that
"The
she
life that I saved."
saved.
Yeah, it's the life that I saved. So, to me, what I how I read into that is that her dad, probably hit the bottle pretty hard after her mom's death,
Uh-huh.
and then ended up becoming sober because of her. Like, it was like, I still have a daughter kind of motivation to get back to sobriety and pick things back up. So this one's for the life that I saved, the watch, and then the wedding band, this is the life that I lost.
And she tells him, well, now Nikki Heat has a backstory. And he jokes at her that, oh, I kind of like the hooker by day, cop by night thing, which makes her laugh, which is nice because she's telling him something very deeply personal and something that's been like they've been hinting at it throughout the whole season so far, I think. But yeah, this is the first that we hear about Joanna Beckett's murder.
But then also there are people who, and I'm kind of like one of those people where someone could tell me something devastating. And it's not that I don't care because I do, but the only way I know how to like actually process it is to like make a joke. Like,
Yeah.
let me make a joke about this. And it's not that I ignore the trauma or the pain and like, but like it really is like, this is how I know how to help you is
It's
to
a
make,
coping mechanism, right? I mean,
yeah. But no, I find that interesting. Also, it sounds like a plot of like 21 Jump Street, like the original, like hooker by day, detective by night. Or yeah, did I say that backwards? I don't know. But the point is, and so I don't know, like that scene is really powerful where she, is telling her story for the first time.
yeah. But then it ends with she tells him good night and he says until tomorrow, and she asks, "Why can't you just say good night?" And he says he's a writer and night is boring. And she says, "I'm a cop, so good night." And this is a nice callback to what she said earlier, the difference between them, fiction writer and police officer. But yeah, I like that. And nice little parallels in this episode.
Yeah, and also too, I think cops want a boring night.
So we go back to her apartment and she takes off her watch, which is a reverse of the opening scene, which is her putting the watch on, the necklace on, opening her jewelry box. But she puts her parents back in the box, and yeah, then she
Yeah.
calls her dad and talks to him.
It's symbolic, right? Like she every morning, so we see her wake up. She takes her parents out of the box,
Mm-hmm.
and then every night before she goes back to bed, she puts them back in the box.
Yeah, I like that.
And yeah, I mean, it's nice symbolism. I think it's a way for her to keep connected in that way.
Yeah. So the last scene is Esposito taking Castle to a filing room at the station, and he pulls out Joanna Beckett's file. And he gives it to Castle, and he says he basically threatens him with bodily harm because this is like a sensitive topic. And we go more into the show goes more into it later, but basically he should not be giving Castle Joanna Beckett's file to read. So
No, no, this is Espo like violating Beckett's like personal space a little bit, actually.
yeah, yeah,
Because like, I mean, he threatens him, if you tell her,
I'll
like
make you bleed.
yeah, he's gonna hurt you. But like, I don't know if like, did you have thoughts on like Castle? Basically, he made a beeline for that file as soon as she told him that story.
Yeah.
And while we've seen the entire series, I know some of our listeners haven't, so I don't want to like start getting into a bunch of spoilers, but I mean, I think we have more context for why Castle would do something like that beyond
Hmm.
like he's a writer who's curious, but I don't know, like how do you remember how you felt watching that the first time or like do you have thoughts on him going straight for that file?
I mean, I've seen this episode. I've seen like the first season of Castle maybe 3 or 4 times. So I've kind of erased my first impression of it. I don't remember what I thought the first time. I guess I just thought. I mean, I think in general, I feel like he has good intentions. I don't think that it's like any kind of like purely like nosy kind of thing. He just wants the details, the dirty details. I think he just wants to help. He just realizes, oh, this is like my partner's trauma. I want to help. I want to figure out this cold case, and maybe it has to do with the fact that he helped solve the cold case. So
I mean, maybe. And
He's
also
like feeling
too,
the high. He's like, maybe I can bring some of this magic to this cold case too. So
I mean, also too, that's a great tie-in, right? Because this is also a cold case. Like her
yeah,
mother's murder
yeah,
was never solved, and yeah, but I mean, I just know it's a little invasive. Like I thought it was just a little
yeah.
invasive in terms of like he went straight for that file and was like,
Hmm.
"Let me read about it and let me read up on it." And I mean, yeah, we have more context. Like he's not just being a jerky like writer who wants to like get the hot goss so that he can, put it in his next
Put in
book.
a book.
Yeah, like that's not his goal. That's not his intention. He's not that kind of person. But also, I'm just like, this is so invasive. And Espo, this is a violation of Beckett's trust. And I hope you know that, Espo.
But yeah, so that's the end of the episode. I mean, we don't have very many watches on this. We just have Beckett's hair, but her hair hasn't really changed in this episode. And then we don't have any author's notes for this one. Caskett Corner, there's the Joanna when she tells Castle about Joanna, and then it's tied with the goodnight scene. And Neoshia, you wrote down the scene with Roger.
And we are not married. That's actually like my favorite line of this episode.
Which is so funny because they totally act like they're married in this scene.
Yeah. Like they're like children denying like the obvious. We are not married. If you insist.
Okay, bestseller list for scenes. I mean we literally just said what my favorite scene is. It's the one where they're walking through everything and Roger's there like trying to help and being nosy. And
Yeah.
it's so funny. It's so well done, nicely scripted.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite scenes here is when Beckett, has that realization in interrogation that Sam killed his wife. Because as I've mentioned, I really like the theming in this episode. I think it's when we're talking about television writing and how to use themes and I mean, I guess in some ways this is like beating us over the head, but I don't feel like it really is. I mean, I sat here and I watched, on a rewatch for this. So I personally don't feel like it's too much, but the theme that I love here is the coldness of those around her and, how Melanie was basically a victim that no one, and I'm using that phrase loosely, cared enough about to even go do basic steps to figure out what happened. And so as we've mentioned, like the word cold means many things in this episode. And Beckett's on the verge of losing it because of this obvious parallel with her mother. And the reason I said, I would say no one cared very loosely because there were people who cared about Melanie. Like her parents cared. Her dad, and when he's given that whole hypothetical, he is, basically saying, I shouldn't have to watch my wife have a breakdown when our grandkids come over, right? Because
Yeah,
it's always a reminder of what we've lost. Like we've lost our daughter. And so like they cared, the kids cared, but like all of these people who, either had information or could have worked to solve the case and like put this to rest did not care. Right.
yeah.
And in fact, in ways they even helped further the crime. And so I mean, obviously, like I said, it's a connection, it's a parallel to how Joanna Beckett was killed. Also, she describes the murder, and if you think about how she describes the murder, it's very similar, right? Like she's left laying in the alleyway, I believe, like garbage, and eventually is just forgotten about by the cops. In which
Yeah.
in Johanna's case, I can't remember, or Joanna, I can't remember if we learned in this episode that she was a DA, or did we learn that before?
No, no. I
Okay,
don't
so
think so.
we learned after. um, so I mean, Joanna, by the definition of who she was someone that they should have cared enough about to, because she's a quote unquote perfect victim almost, right? Like married woman, didn't have this drug history. She's a district attorney. Like this is someone that should have gotten them out of bed to figure out who did it, right?
Yeah,
But like not to Beckett, not to her dad, but to everybody else, this case was just easily disposed of, just as easy as the body. And that's what drives Beckett. And I love seeing her, you know, get into that emotional place. I think Stana Katic is a great actress because I've seen her in other things, obviously, but I think she's really, really good at her craft and really, I think, bringing these emotions for Beckett alive.
okay, favorite lines. Mine was towards the end, at the ending scene. She says, "Don't bewilder your audiences with substance on my account, Castle." I like that.
Yeah, and like I already said, we are not married, but I mean, there were a couple good ones here. I also liked Alexis telling Castle that she's basically going to need therapy. I think that's true, though.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with a new Beckett's interrogation. All right, we're back with a new Beckett's interrogation. The way this works is I'm going to ask 5 questions of increasing difficulty about the episode we just discussed, along with a bonus question, and you'll have 5 seconds to come up with an answer. Are you ready?
I am as ready as I'll ever be.
All right, question 1. Where do the Kavanaugh grandparents live? Or the Davidsons, I guess.
Oh, shoot. Um, it's not South Jersey. Is it New Jersey?
It's White Plains.
Dang, that's on Long Island. Okay,
Okay, so
next.
how far is that from New York? I don't know my New
It's
York
not. I'm pretty
geography.
sure it's on Long Island though. So which is
Oh,
like right
okay.
there. It's like one of the places. But my God, it takes like forever to get there.
Okay, so what? Okay, so Esposito says when he says when Castle's comparing, should I go talk to homeless or should I go to White Plains? Esposito says they're both kind of creepy. What does that mean?
Because I think there's like a lot of like stereotyping around the islands. Because I'm pretty sure White Plains is on Long Island, or it might be. Is it on Staten Island? I don't know. It's over there somewhere on one of the islands.
Is that where they make Budweiser? I know I've heard it on a commercial.
Don't know.
Okay. All right. Question 2. What movie helped Castle get laid a lot when he was researching the Empire State Building?
Oh, Sleepless. No. Is it Sleepless in Seattle?
Yes, it is.
That's what I thought. It doesn't even make sense, but you
What
know
were
what?
you gonna say?
I was gonna say Sleepless in Seattle, but I was like, wait a minute, that is different. That's not the Empire State Building, but whatever.
Isn't it?
Is it?
I think it is.
Is he a
But
radio
is
host that
isn't
talks?
no? But isn't Sleepless in Seattle also? Doesn't Sleepless in Seattle have a callback to another movie, like an old black and white movie?
I have no idea. I've only seen that movie like actually it's probably been 20 years since I've seen that movie because I remember my mom watching it. And so that's the only time I've ever watched it.
I
So,
think I only watched it once too. I preferred You Got Mail.
mm,
Okay, question 3. What comic book character does Beckett compare herself to?
it's not Wonder Woman. Is it not Poison Ivy? It's not Poison Ivy. Mm, I got so caught up in the Batman reference and making the Green Lantern joke that I missed that part.
She compared herself to Alfred.
Oh,
She
yeah.
said, I feel like Alfred in the Batcave.
All right. That kind of makes sense. That kind of makes sense.
Okay, my next 2 questions are pretty hard, I think. So
Oh, man.
hopefully our listeners can get these.
All right.
Question 4. How many pounds was the turkey that Castle defrosted for Thanksgiving that he refers to?
I don't know, 20.
28, which is a pretty big turkey.
Yeah, that's like, I'm not going to say what I
Massive.
thought, but it's a huge turkey.
Okay, question 5. What is the name of the aliens that Alexis is fighting against in their game of laser tag?
The Voltars.
Oh, you got that one.
Yeah, I did pay attention to the laser tag. I was like, because I was trying to figure out, because like I'm into a lot of nerdy stuff, but like I couldn't figure out exactly what they were playing.
Yeah, I don't know either. I didn't actually look it up.
And I
Do you
kind of
think it
wondered,
was just like their own made up thing?
maybe, maybe.
Okay, bonus question. At the initial crime scene, what does Beckett say to keep an eye out for when Castle makes a Wizard of Oz joke?
Because the joke is about her melting. So water makes her melt. So a bucket of water?
No, she says keep an eye out for flying monkeys.
Oh, flying monkeys. Okay.
All right, any last thoughts? I
No,
like this one. I mean, even though the case was pretty grim, the whole Joanna Beckett stuff finally coming out was really nice.
Yeah, and I love the writing in this episode and how it's written and the parallels we get between the crime of the week and, this character's backstory.
Okay, if you're enjoying Rom-Com Detectives, we hope you'll consider taking a minute to leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. For our question of the week, you can leave us a comment on Spotify, YouTube, or Reddit and tell us if you knew Ryan's Land of the Lost reference, because I did not. I had to Google it. If you'd like to join additional conversations about Castle, you can visit the Castle subreddit at reddit.com/r/CastleTV. To contact me and Neoshia, email us at host@romcomdetectives.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Threads, or Blue Sky at romcomdetectives, or leave us a voicemail or text message at 1650 733 XOXO or 9696. This episode of Rom-Com Detectives was recorded on September 2nd, 2025. Rom-Com Detectives Castle Unit is co-hosted by Kristen Watanabe and Neoshia Roemer and is produced by Pico's House. Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you guys next time for our breakdown of Always Buy Retail.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone.